Lads, I'm back with another video. Obviously recovered from the flu slash bronchitis I had recently, thankfully. Today I'm going to be doing a video, the best and worst players from each championship club. Now this idea was stolen from a YouTube called Stumpeg. I'll leave a link in the description, but yeah, good channel. I think you should check it out if you like my content. It's completely different, but I think you'll also appreciate the content over there as well. So let's get into it. Now I'm going to be going from the bottom of the championship upwards as of the 8th of October 2019, obviously. The worst player for Stoke City, in my opinion, Tom Ince. Not fond of his dad, not fond of him. I don't think he's quality. He's obviously played at Forest, he's played at Derby before. He's not warranting the wage he's on, and he's definitely not warranting the amount Stoke and other teams have paid for him. He struggles to really impact games. He only plays well in a team that's playing well, in my opinion. He's just not a good footballer compared to his hype and his sort of wage and kind of stuff like that. Now, the best player for Stoke, obviously, it's a hard one to find, but it's going to be Butland. I know it's a bit of a cop-out because he's been absolute shit this season. But I do think, he's got a bit about him. Obviously, on his day, he can be an England quality keeper. I think he just needs to refine his confidence and form, but it's a pretty straightforward one for me for Stoke City. Jack Butland is their best player on his day. Now, on to Barnsley. Obviously, as I'm recording this, they've literally just sacked Stendel, Daniel Stendel, I believe. But going into theirs, I think, obviously, having seen Barnsley at the City Ground this year, I'm going to go for their worst player being Mads Joel Anderson. Take with that as you wish. She's a pretty tall 21-year-old centre-back that just was awful, to be honest. Barnsley never showed defensive security against Forest, but especially when they had the ball, he didn't look comfortable. Grabman had him sort of beaten in every situation, but yeah, for me, that's their worst player. Barnsley fans, I don't know much about Barnsley apart from all their fans hate me, but let me know if this kid's got any talent, if he's actually half decent. But on to their best player. Now, in my opinion, Barnsley's best player, this is a controversial one. I've gone for Connor Chaplin because I personally think this kid's got a lot of talent. Obviously, at Coventry and Portsmouth are his recent clubs. I could have given this Pinios, obviously being a Nets Forest player, but I think Connor Chaplin is a striker that's actually got a bit of talent. He's a quick striker, and I think given the right pieces around him, he could thrive in the Championship, and it's certainly in League One. He's definitely not a League One striker, in my opinion. Moving on to Reading, we'll do their best player first because it's pretty easy. For me, it's this George Puskás bloke they've signed because he does look very good. He scored 2 on his first appearance, was it? Or one of his early appearances. But he's a young player that's going to grow, and I think with Reading it was between Puskás, John Swift, and Jaria. Is that the Liverpool player? Or the ex-Liverpool player, I suppose, now. It's between them, but I've gone for Puskás because I think he has the most talent and he's quite young. Their worst player, on the other hand, I've given a pretty simple decision to. It's going to be Pele. I think they signed him on loan from whoever we had him from. He was probably one of the worst players I've seen in the Forest shirt in the past 10 years. Since I've been on this earth. He was dreadful at Forest, and that's the reason I've given him worst Reading player. Best Huddersfield player, in my opinion, is a man by the name of Carl Aherne Grant. I think that's how you pronounce it. I said it in my predictions video, I think, when I predicted Huddersfield quite high. I said Carl Aherne Grant's a piece. He's going to be good. He's quick. He's got a bit of strength about him. And he's got good pieces around him, but obviously they're not playing to their ability. Obviously the likes of Hogg, Bakuna, and Benza, Pritchard's there, Kachunga's there, Schneidler at the back. Or Schindler, sorry, not Schneidler. But yeah, I think Huddersfield are a team that's underperforming for me. For a team with Josh Koroma, the young lad from Leyton Orient, could do well. But Carl Aherne Grant is their best player for me. The worst player I've given to Florent Hagerjanaj, I believe is how you pronounce it. A Kosovan speaking Swiss player from Ingolstadt. He's not looked good since joining, and neither of Huddersfield, so it doesn't really help him, but doesn't look brilliant. That's why I've given him the title of worst Huddersfield player. Now, best Middlesbrough player for me is going to be Britt Assombalonga, obviously ex-Forest player. We saw him 50 million not too long ago. Not much to say about him other than he's a good striker on his day. You give him the right service, he will score goals for you. Simple as that. Now, on the other hand, a player that I do not rate at all coming out of Middlesbrough is Ryan Shotton, a player that I've never liked, I don't think I ever will like, and he's awful in my opinion. I'm not going to say more about that because I don't like the bloke. Now on to Wigan. The best player for me is Kiefer Moore. A bit of a weird one because he's not really proven himself. But he is a striker they signed in the summer window. A very good striker, in my opinion. And he just needs a little bit of time to adjust to the Championship. And I think he'll be firing very soon. Their worst player, on the other hand, is going to be Danny Fox. Now, he was good at Forest, but he's not really found his feet at Wigan. And I can't see him fitting in at Wigan. You know, he doesn't really fit their play. And he's getting on a bit in age. And I don't think he's going to be a starting player for the Championship sides anytime soon or in the near future. Luton Town's best player for me is James Collins, very good player. Questions whether he could make a step up, and he has very well so far. Not much more needs to be said. He's sort of the typical shithouse striker, really. But you know, he was up there with Pelly Ruddock and Panzu, won me 150 quid when they were in League One, with a screamer against Accrington Stanley. So he was front runner. But the worst player has to go to Simon Sluga, in my opinion. I've seen this man make more mistakes than any player in my life. Every time I watch him, he makes a mistake. Simon Sluga, bad signing in my opinion. Brentford's best player, it's a flip between two for me. I'm going to go with Ollie Watkins because Grabban made Janssen look like a schoolboy defender. Ollie Watkins, obviously top scorer in the league, I think. Might have changed over the weekend, but he was top scorer. Good player. Tore Derby apart. Janssen, good player, but looked awful at Forest, so I've not given him top. David Raya was a close third for me. But they've got young players in their team, you know, like Rico Henry and is it Mbuemo? Brian Mbuemo, I think it is. He's quite good. The worst player, on the other hand, I've given to a player I've never liked, and that is Jensen. Danish, I think, by the sound of his name. He was awful at Forest. I'll give him a bit of stick when he came over. I've watched Brentford a few times on little streams and highlights and stuff, and he just never seems to affect a game like you'd want him to, and I just don't like the way he plays, simple as. Hull's best player, easy. Jared Bowen, best player by miles. Don't need to say more about that. Worst player is going to go to John Terrell. You know, he's not a player I rate. He's not a player I've ever rated, even when he was doing quite well. I just don't think he's got the ability or the physical stats to keep up with the Championship season. So I don't think he's just going to fall into nothingness for me. John Terrell, worst Hull player. Best Millwall player goes to Conor Mahoney. Good player. Was linked to Forest at one point. He's class. It was a flip between him and Matt Smith, but I've gone for Conor Mahoney. I think he's a young lad with a lot of potential, and hopefully Millwall can help him realise that potential. Worst player, Bartosz Białkowski. I don't know how he found a club after the season he had with Ipswich. You know, clangers left, right, and centre. This was a close one between him and Romeo, the defender, but Bartosz Białkowski is one of the worst keepers I've ever watched in my life. Best Blackburn player, Bradley Dack. Easy, simple. Class player, one of the best in the league on his day. Not much more needs to be said. Blackburn fans would probably agree. You know, they got Stuart Downing and co there, but I think Bradley Dack is a head above the rest. Worst player, easy. Ben Brereton. 7 million for Ben Brereton. We cashed out and we did well. Awful, awful, awful player for Blackburn. Blackburn fans will probably agree. I think he's got like 2 goals in 40 or something. He's dreadful for them. For £7 million, it's dreadful. Cardiff's best player for me, Sol Bamba. He's an absolute god. I love Sol Bamba. He's very good. It was here between Sol Bamba and Josh Murphy for me, but obviously Lee Tomlin's the best player in world football that's not a Forest player. But you know, Sol Bamba for me, he's got to take top spot. He's class. He's a real professional on his day and everything like that. He's just a centre back you want. Worst player, on the other hand, for me, it's going to be Omar Bogle. He was a player that sort of, I think he was at Grimsby, had a lot of promise. Forest wanted him, Birmingham, and everyone wanted him, really. But he's never lived up to sort of stepping up the leagues, and he's not very good. Charlton's best player was a tip-up between 3 for me. Macaulay Bond, Johnny Williams, and Lyle Taylor. I've given it to Lyle Taylor because he scores, and scores. Conor Gallagher's on loan. He's up there, but he's on loan, and I didn't really want to give it him when they had Lyle Taylor. Lyle Taylor's class. Scored against Forest, and I think he's injured at the minute. He's dyed his hair pink. But him and Lecco seem to force. Hopefully he gets back soon, not when he plays Forest though. Worst player is for me is a Tomar Hamed. I've never rated him. You know, Brighton, wherever he's been, I've never rated him. Simple as. QPR's best player, Eberici Eze. Not much more needs to be said about the 21-year-old Englishman. He's class. He's really, really good, and he makes his QPR team and Mark Warburton look a lot better than they really are. Because Warburton's shit is football shit, and he doesn't deserve to manage a team. Worst player on the other hand, Grant Hall. Not much more needs to be said. It's Grant Hall. He's tragic. Sheffield Wednesday's best player for me is Adam Reach. He only scores screamers and he's a good midfielder. It was a toss-up between him, Kadeem Harris, I think the new sign is called, and Barry Bannon. Kieran Westwood's also a good player. He's probably up there. But yeah, I've gone for Adam Reach. You know, he's just a very good player at the end of the day. I don't see too many faults with this Sheffield Wed team. But Nuhiu's a striker I've never saw the point in. He's dreadful for me. I don't see why you'd play Nuhiu anywhere near anyone when you have the likes of Sam Winnell in your team, but I just can't stand Nuhiu. Moving on to Fulham, Mitrovic, best striker in the league, don't need to say any more. Worst player, Cyrus Christie. No one can argue that. Cyrus Christie is a tragedy. Into the playoffs, we have Bristol City. I'm going with Thomas Callas as their best player, but Callas on his day is one of the best centre-backs in the league, as someone in the comments nicely pointed out. But the worst player is going to be Benica Phobe. I think he's had his chance and he's not really shunned for me. And I don't think, unless he can revitalise his career at Bristol City, it's a bit finished for him. On to Swansea. Now, Selena's their best player. I don't think many people would argue. Baston's coming into it. You know, Jan Dander's doing all right. But yeah, Selena is very, very good and not to be looked past. Worst player, Barry Mackay, was at Forest. Is awful. Moving on to Preston. Ben Pearson's their best player in my opinion. Good little defensive midfielder. Proper shithouse when he came to the City ground. Did his job perfectly. Ben Pearson, Preston's best player. Worst player, David Nugent. Shit cunt striker, overrated, never been good. Awful striker, tragically bad, zero ability prick. Now, onto the mighty Nottingham Forest, sitting pretty joint top automatic places. Best player for me is a split. I can't decide who to give this best player to. This season it's been Ben Watson, but he's not going to take it. Bryce Samber's been up there for me. He's been a class keeper. He's been a class act. Michael Dawson's been class. Warrell's been class. Cash has been cash. Clash has been cash. Bloody hell, that's a fucking tricky one. Cash has been class. But for me, it's going to be a toss-up between Lewis Grabban and Ben Watson, especially at the end of the season for best player. Grabban scores goals. It's proven. He's the most top scorer in the last 5 years. He's class. But Ben Watson has been so influential. I can't stress enough how influential he's been this season for us. Worst player on the other hand, Arijanet Muric. He is utter shite. He's useless. Worst keeper I've seen at Forest in a while. I want to the team sitting pretty at the top of the league. It is West Bromwich Albion. Best player for me, purely based off a few performances, is Raheem Harper. He's looked ridiculous. You know, there's not much you can really argue. Raheem Harper has looked an absolute talent. But I think at the end of the season, Grady Diangana or Mateus Pereira could overtake him because I think they're two class acts. Worst player, Hal Robson Kanu. How this man still has a job, I will never know. He's dreadful. That's it. You know, I've completed my first video after overcoming the Ebola or whatever I had. But if you liked it, like the video. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Sabri Lamucci's taking Forest up.